welcome to my MithrilJS tutorial. Today I'm going to be creating a very simple counter app using MithrilJS, specifically using the components as opposed to functions. So we'll dive into it very quickly. Just to quickly highlight as well that we will be using ES6 client-side modules. That way you're able to dynamically import and export modules as well, which you'll see as we're going along. So basically here we are, I've got my blank HTML file, I've basically passed in the CDN. If you're using Webpack or any other bundler, you simply would just install using npm i mithril and then it will import it for you and you can use it in your project. But in this instance, we're going to be using the CDN. I've also imported the app.js file or passed it in as well. And I've declared it as a module. Like I said, we're going to be using ES6 modules and you'll see it as we're going along. So to be able to mount my Mithril app, the first thing I need to do is, see where do I want to place this Mithril component. I want to place it inside the div ID app tag, right? So what I'm going to do here is first start by saying, m.mount, and I want to place my component in the app ID tag. So I'll simply just say document.get elements by ID, right? App. And then the second argument is going to be the component that I want to place in, which in this case, I'll just simply do this app component. And then I'll create my class called app component, which will contain a method called view, right? And this is going to return a mithril function, an m function, with the first argument being the tag that I want or selector, and then the second argument being the content in it saying hello world, right? So if I refresh this page, you'll see it says hello world. Very simple, right? But then if I now want to give this a class, I'd simply just add an object inside with a class of application. And if I refresh my page right now, you see div class application. There are other ways to do this. I could simply just do dot application and get rid of this object in here, right? And you see it right there, div class application. Reason being that this is a selector as you would with any normal CSS selector. But Mithril by itself already knows that, if there's no specific tag or element created or added, then I'll just specify, if there's no tag specified, then I'll just create a div by default, and that's what is done over here. Unless I specifically say, I want a p tag, then you see in here, right, rendering a p tag. But if I don't, it will just render a div tag by default, right? So in here, just to keep it nice and simple, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create two tags, right? So I'm going to create an array, right? And the first item in here will be a p tag that will contain this .data.counter, right? And the second element is going to be a button. And when I click on that button, I want it to increment this data counter. Now the question is, I'm sure you guys will be thinking is, where is the counter coming from? Well, in Mithril, I'm going to use the onInit hook, which basically renders just before the tag gets placed before the virtual DOM data gets placed into the actual DOM itself. What I'm going to do here, I'm just going to create a property called this.data equals blank object literal with counter equals 0, right? So that's basically it, right? And now when you actually take a look, 0 is here. And when I click on this, it doesn't do anything. So how do I add an event to this element? I'll simply do that by adding an object in here as a second argument, and I'll just add an onClick key, and I'll say this dot onClick being invoked inside an arrow function, right? And now I'm going to create an onClick arrow function inside here, and I'll say this dot data dot counter increment like that, and that's simply it. And then I'll just refresh this, and here we are, and there you go. That's the counter. The main reason for this tutorial is to show you how you could use classes to create components in Mithril. For the ES6 demonstration I mentioned earlier, I would simply just create an actual file called app.component.js inside here, and over here I'll just simply say export default class component, Or I could even just do it down here. And I'll simply just say, okay, export default app component. There we go, I've exported it now. And inside here, I'll just simply do import app component from app.component.js. And there we go. And it has imported it successfully. And if you actually look in the network, there we are, we could actually see it being imported as well dynamically. And it works perfectly fine. So there we are, that's a tutorial in a nutshell. I hope this has been useful. I do hope to probably build something that would be interesting with Mithril and carry you guys along. All right, no problem. Take care. Bye, guys.